Hello, Charlie Newton here again. Uh, so, again, we're going to be doing gesture drawings. This is our third installation of gesture and contour drawings. I want to show you how gesture and contour relate to the finished object. The object is to train you how to see. That's the value of gesture drawing. So you have to practice this a lot, just like if you practice in basketball, football, anything, dance, singing, music, whatever, you have to practice. But anybody can do this. This is gesture and contour. I believe is a very, very advanced technique, but I believe that children can learn how to do this too. Okay, so you're never too young to start learning how to do this, because we're training our eyes. And the more you do, the better you get. The more you look, the more you see. So what I'm thinking about when I'm doing a gesture, when looking at a person or a figure, I'm thinking about the skeletal system here. So most people, when they start gestures, they focus on the head. You know, the head is not as important as the body. We're trying to draw what the body is doing. Okay, so the main thing that I look at personally is the spinal cord. Number one, first thing I look at, I try to see the angle of the spinal cord. And I know that the spinal cord has a natural S-curve in here. So if I'm doing it from the side or back, I'll place that S-curve in there. If I'm doing it from the front, I just remember that there's an S-curve. When I say S-curve, that means the spinal cord is shaped like an S. It's not straight up and down the spinal cord. There's an S shape in the spinal cord. The next thing I think about are the shoulder girdle. The angle of the shoulders. This area here, if it's up or down like that, the angle. And then I think about the hips. Is it, what's the angle of the hips? And then I think about the joints, the shoulder joints, knee, the elbow joint, and the wrist joint. And then the femur or the thigh, this joint here that hooks to the waist or hips, and then the knee joints and the ankle joints. Okay? So I look at those things. And a gesture drawing is a very quick drawing. So let's demonstrate gesture. So I'm going to start off with a picture of Beyonce. And so what I'm looking at, I'm noticing that the angle of her spinal cord, the top part of her body is going to the left. And then her hip juts out to the right. So you see that angle there? I was mentioning the shoulders and the hips. So this is not a gesture. I just want to show you what I'm saying. I'm saying that her shoulders and her hips do that, which is natural for a human being. Okay? And then you have the legs that are supporting her. And one arm is back here. One arm goes back down like that. Okay? So spinal cord doing that. This hip is doing that. I'm sorry, this hip is doing that. And the shoulder's doing that, which is natural. That's how it usually works, okay? So when I do a gesture, I have that in mind. So in doing your gesture drawing, just use a soft lead pencil. I'm using a 6B pencil. You can hold your pencil like this. Not like you're writing. Your hand doesn't touch the paper. And the drawing is quick. So now I'm going to do a gesture drawing. My phone is set at 30 seconds. So I'm thinking about the skeletal system. I'm actually looking at the contours as well. So that would be my first gesture. Let's do another one. I want to draw through the figure. I'm trying to draw through her, not around her. So it's all about training the eyes. And I'm going to show you, after I do a few gestures, then I'll show you. Now let's do a third gesture. If you had a model, you would decide if the model is going to pose for a minute. I suggest a minute or 2 minutes for beginners. So that's 30 seconds. I'm using 30 seconds. So that's 3 gestures of Beyonce. I'm going to show you how this relates to drawing, how it translates. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's go to the next one of this football player. Okay, now this is very extreme. You can see the shoulders, the angles of the shoulders and the hips. You see that? So that's what I'm looking at, and the spinal cord is twisting. But now I'm going to draw through the figure. The figure is in space and in motion. Trying to get that gesture. Okay, that's one. I did that in less than 30 seconds, so my phone should cut off soon. And I'm gonna do another one. You see, when you practice, and it doesn't matter. And I'm just ignoring the drawing I just did. I just ignored it. And I'm using heavier marks so that I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to do another gesture here. Remember, the head don't mean too much. Usually I deal with the head later. In an art class, it's sort of like a game. See if you can get that gesture down before the teacher tells you next pose. You have a model, and you have the model posing. So I did 3 gestures of the football player, trying to draw what it's doing, what the figure is doing. If I was drawing a ribbon or drapery or cloth, it would be the same thing. This is how you're looking at your subject matter. And this is how you can get expression, gain expression. Now let's go to the baseball player. I'm going to turn my paper sideways so I get more on there. So this is extreme again. The head don't matter that much. I'm looking at the spine and the hips, the joints. I don't care about the cap or the clothes. I'm looking at the figure. Now I'm going to do another one on the side. So when you practice, that means you do a lot of drawing. You notice I'm not trying to outline the figure. This is how you get expression into your art. You want to express what that person is doing, what the figure is doing. This is how you get action in the art. Very important for comics. It's important for drawing the figure, whether it's comics or real or classical drawing. It doesn't matter. See, I want the direction. Also, I'm varying my line. We haven't talked a lot about line variation, but I'll insert that. This figure is moving, and this figure is moving fast. We're going to do some gestures in a minute. So that's the baseball player. See how quick I did those? And see how I kept the pencil moving. You keep the pencil moving. Let's do another one. So this is what your sketch pad is for. I suggest you get a newsprint sketch pad. Let's do this baseball player. Can you see the angle of the shoulders, the spinal cord? Can you see the twist of spinal cord and the hips, the angle of the hips? Now, this one, how I use my line variation is very important. So right here, this supporting leg, you know, I really want to accentuate that all his weight is back here on this supporting leg, and that these heavier lines help to do that. And the heavier lines in the foot and the ankle, it lets you know that this person is planted, and the gravity is here on this side, and the left side is lighter. Can you see that? So these are things I'm thinking about. I'm teaching my eyes to see. I'm not just looking, I'm seeing. Most people just look, but they never see. And I think that's one of the reasons for wars. People never see the other person's way of seeing life. But for the artists, we don't just look, we see. And then we add expression. You know, how do we feel about what we see? You know, if you only look at things and situations, you will never see it. But if you see first, if your goal is to see, then you'll know more. So you see how I made my lines heavier here? These are the bones of this figure. Let's do another one. This is great practice. Now I suggest whenever COVID is over with, when we can go back to the mall and hang out, go to the beach and hang out, go to the lake and hang out, take your sketch pad with you and do some gesture drawing. You see, I'm trying to get the action. See the waist, see this waist here? Usually, the shoulders will be in the opposite direction of the waist, okay? That's what's usually going to happen. Now, I'm going to do a gesture drawing. If you go to the mall, you'll see people sitting around at tables and things like that. So let's do a gesture drawing of these three figures. You have to draw really fast. When you go to the mall and you do it from life, you have to draw really fast. You want to draw what they're doing. I'm not so much interested in what they look like at this stage. I'm more interested in what they are doing. The gesture is what the figure or object is doing. You ask yourself, what are they doing? And you draw through the figure. You don't draw the contour. We're not doing contour now. So this is my gesture. I'm going to get another pencil. Well, I'll just sharpen this one. I'm going to do another one. This time I think I'm going to get a different sheet of paper. And I think I want to do a gesture drawing. And I believe I want to show you how contour relates to it. So first I'm going to do a gesture drawing. I'm going to gesture this thing, this grouping of figures. And before you even start drawing, you look at the object this way. This is how you look at it. You look at it in terms of what it's doing. Also, you may, in the future, you hear me talk about why did you draw the thing. You should have a reason. Now, in practicing, you don't necessarily have a reason for what you do in art class, but you can find a reason with the medium, through the medium. So I'm just going to highlight, how do you look at this next? Okay, so I'm going to show you where the contour would be. So this is the contour. I just want you to see how it relates to my gesture. Contour, remember, is you imagine you let your eye move around the figure. It's the contour of the figure. It's kind of like, I hate using the word outline, but it's more like the outline of the figure. So you're not thinking so much when you're doing the contour of the gesture, because the gesture, you've already thought about the gesture. Now you're thinking more about details. You're looking more at details. This is what happens with the contour. So when you actually draw, you have the gesture in your mind and you have the contour in your mind. You have both things in your mind. So when I thought about the contour, you see how it's different than my gesture, this lady here. So contour is a lot more detailed. It ends almost in the same place. But you notice how I've been sketching freely? So I'm thinking about the contour now. Now contour drawing, if I was doing an actual contour, for those of you who didn't see the other classes, a contour drawing, you don't do a gesture drawing before you do the contour. You just practice contour. Right now, I just want to show you how the contour and the gestures relate to each other. The gesture, you can look at it like this. The gesture, you're drawing the inside of the figure. The contour, you're drawing the outside of the figure. But yeah, contour is not going to be good without a halfway decent gesture. I'm going to go back to some of the other ones and do that too. So now I want to go back to doing gesture. I'm going back to Beyonce. And I'm going to do a gesture of Beyonce again. And then I want to show you the skeletal. I'll use blue. If blue doesn't work, I'll use another. I'll use another marker. So I'm going to do a gesture of Beyonce. So it's quick. Remember, the gesture is quick. You just want to react to it, to the object. See how fast my pencil moves? Don't let, when you're doing a gesture, and a contour. The pencil doesn't leave the paper. Once the pencil touches the paper, the pencil stays on the paper. Gesture and contour. The pencil stays on the paper. So here's the gesture. Okay. Now, what I want to do is insert, I'll use a different color. I want to insert the skeletal system, if I can. So her neck, she has a long neck, so her neck is jutting forward. So her spine is doing something like this. We know the spine is an S curve. So her hips, one hip is here, one hip is there. Okay? Neck is jutting forward and her head is here. Maybe next time we'll draw a skull. I don't know. I've been waiting to draw a skull, but I haven't had, a good excuse. Now her shoulder girdle is at this angle, see? Her arm comes down here to the elbow is here, and then her fingers wrap around. Her other arm is back in the back here. Elbow, wrist, hand. She has, I guess you could call it large hips, long legs. So you have the upper thigh muscles, bones. And then she's really balancing herself on her, this would be her left leg, foot. So most of her weight is on this side, her weight. And then bones come down like that. Ankle bone. So there's more weight on this side. The gravity. You think about gravity. Now her chest, you can put the chest in. See how the chest is kind of inconsequential? But the chest expands and contracts. Now, again, we practice these things. Okay, so now let's do the contour. Let's do a contour. I'm going to use blue. Let's do a contour around her body. I got to use a different type of pen. So this is what you're thinking about. This is what now I'm doing a contour. So here's a jaw. Her hair is not important right now. So I'm just thinking about her head, shoulder. She has little muscles, see? That's her chest area, her hips, thigh, outside of her knee, calf, ankle, calf, ankle, thigh. This is her right thigh. To our left, calf, shoulder, bicep, elbow, forearm. She's holding a mic. Hips, calf. See, now we get into the shape. See, the muscles determines the shape of these lines, her muscles, the muscular system. Kids, when I say muscles, I don't mean like flexing Iron Man muscles. I mean the muscles on your, we all have muscles. Now, I really need to see if I can find I know I can find a muscle chart for the future, but I need to see if I can find a figure that shows the muscles that we can afford. So the weight is here. She's wearing heels. So you got that? I did this to show you the skeletal system that's underneath, because when we do the gesture, we're definitely thinking about the skeletal. We think skeleton, muscles. By the time we start thinking about muscles, we're thinking about the contour drawing. So, do gesture. First thing we think about is skeleton. And then we think about muscles. Okay, and the muscles are the contour. Okay, the gesture, we think about the skeleton, the bones. And this is how you practice. Even when you're out, you don't have your sketch pad, look at people. Look at what they are doing. Look at what they're doing. Let's do another one that might be fun to do. Which one should I do? This is a pretty difficult one. The baseball player running. So these are the bones of a drawing. Yes, he's catching the ball. To me, it looks like what is that? Position. It really looks like a pitcher. Looks like a pitcher has thrown the ball, and it's either a pitcher or a shortstop. But I'm looking at where the glove is, and it looks like a pitcher just pitched the ball, and then the batter hit it straight back at him. He's trying to catch it. Or it's a shortstop trying to catch a ball. Let's turn the paper this way. So first let's do the gesture. Remember, the gesture is fast. Think about the spine, think about the bones, think about the skeletal system. Now think about muscles now. See, notice how it went back from the bottom up the top. The pencil don't leave the paper. I don't care what he's wearing. I just want to draw what he's doing. And if I can get his action, then, so that's the gesture. See how fast that was? It probably did. So now, let's do this. Let's draw the skeleton like I did Beyonce. So the reason why I'm going through this is because this is art class. This is how you learn. So the spine, we know the spine it has an S curve, but it's really slanted to the left, right, in a dramatic fashion. And so this S-curve does something like this. See that? And the neck is looking back. Even though the body's going this way, he's looking back to over his left shoulder. So his head would be around here. Okay, I'm going to just draw the skull. So his head would be around there. And his shoulder is very dramatic. That shoulder, his right shoulder is dropped. Draw this clavicle. And his arm he's not using his right arm. Okay, his arm is just for balance. He's using his arm for balance, kind of like the way a dog uses his tail for balance. So that would be the elbow, wrist, hand, spine is twisting, and his hips jutted way over here to this side, and one hip is down. You can't see the other hip, but it's down here somewhere. So you see how that's shoulders doing that and hips doing this, like the shoulders in that direction, spine, and the hips, like really the hip is doing that because he's really moving. But we can't see this side of the hip. So his leg his femur, his thigh bone would intersect here on his hip, and then his knee is out here, way out here somewhere. And since he's running in this direction, I gestured his leg going back like this, but it's not. It probably did this before it did this, because he's getting ready to plant. He's getting ready to plant his foot. See the mistake I made there? So when I went back, when I'm going back, I'm seeing I did that gesture wrong. That's why when we do gestures, we do a lot of them. The more you look, the more you see. Now, I'm one of those artists. I'm an art teacher, so I don't believe in shortcuts. You know, a lot of artists can't draw. They think that just by they can throw paint on the canvas and they're painting. No, 1,000 times no. Painting and drawing are related. You get out of life what you put in. Oh, I didn't notice this before. Here's the baseball coming in. This is the baseball coming in real fast. Sure, see, I didn't even see the baseball at first, but now that I'm looking closer to do the bones, the skeleton, I can see the baseball. And his glove is right in the right place to catch it, too. This is his glove area, his hand area. Okay. So that's basically what the skeleton is doing. Skeleton is more extreme than I drew it. The skeleton, well, maybe not, but his hip probably should be way back here. His hip probably should be way back there. Now I'm going to draw the contour. In art school, we would do something like this. This is very advanced because you don't know the skeletal system yet. But hey, you can learn it. So the contour, his face comes around like that. His head goes back like this. I'll go ahead and draw the baseball cap. Because I can't really see his head, but it's covered by a baseball cap. His neck is jutting forward. His shoulder. Now his shoulder probably falls deeper than I then I made it more like that. Then his muscles, his shoulder, his muscles. I'm just going to use my drawing though, but I would change it. If I was trying to do a sketch, a finished drawing, we call a finished drawing. And, you know, if the drawing is important, and if we're trying to make a work of art, we call that a finished drawing. And we have the chest going back in that direction. We can see part of his back, the side of his face, his hips, thigh muscles. We're doing a gesture now. I mean a contour. Now this front bone here, there's not much muscle over his shin, but then you have his calf here, and then his feet will be in perspective. Back leg, you have his thigh. Front of his shin again. Now I'm not drawing his clothes. I'm not drawing his clothes. I'm drawing the figure. If this was a finished drawing, I would draw his clothes. Okay, his feet would be at an angle like that. And the reason why I'm drawing the figure is I want to show you what the muscles, the shapes of the muscles. And you can't see that under the clothes. And then he has a baseball glove. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now let's do another one and put more detail in it. Since we're doing this, let's see if we can bring it together in 10 minutes. We're still going to draw fast. This is practice. It's like practicing your scales. Let's do this one. Yes. Like if you're playing the keyboards, piano or something, you would practice scales. Or in any other instruments, I guess. So let's do the gesture. Whenever you start to draw, never ask yourself if you can draw it or not. Don't draw things that you think you can draw. Draw things that you want to draw, no matter what it is. And that's how you learn. You don't learn by being afraid of, of drawing. A lot of people are just afraid. You can't grow that way. You can draw anything eventually. So see how quick the gesture went down? Now the gesture is, I'm just trying to draw what the figure is doing. Now I'm going to draw the contour, but now I'm going to sketch in using the contour. I'm going to do contour and I'm going to mix that with a sketch so you can see how that fits. But I'm using my gesture. I'm also making corrections. So my sketch is still gestural, but now I'm thinking more of contour. I'm probably drawing more detail than I need to right now too. But I'm still thinking, see these marks, while I'm doing with my pencil, I'm doing a little mini gesture there. And the hardest part of this figure here is this arm that's been what we call foreshortened. Foreshortened. That means it's coming forward. And as it comes forward, it's coming at you, right? And it looks shorter because your eye can't see, can't really see all of it, all of the arm, because it's coming directly at you. So this is the hand and the wrist. Now I'm going to draw, you know, what I see now. So I'm thinking about his muscles, the shape of his muscles, even though he has some clothes on. You know, he has undershirt, but you can still see the shape of his muscles. Now, right now, I'm really thinking contour now. This space in between here. He has a hand, his top hand on the bat. His fingers are wrapped around that bat. Then the muscles of his forearm and his elbow is out here somewhere. So I'm using the gesture and I'm using the contour. His shoulder is right in here somewhere. I can't really tell what it's doing, but I know his shoulder is there. Okay, now now I'm thinking about his chest. So he has a muscle there that I picked up, that I could see. I really want this angle here. His top part of his body going that way and the bottom part of his body going that way. And the more extreme I make that, I do that, the more realistic it's going to look, because it's a flat sheet of paper, a two-dimensional sheet of paper. And you can see the curve of his spine there, really good, the torque. He's really torquing his body, which is very dramatic, see? His shoulder here is foreshortened. That's why it looks weird right there, right in there, because it's foreshortened. So I made heavier lines to bring this arm forward in front of his face. And this is still practice. You would practice like this. You could go to the mall, again, after COVID, you could go to the mall. Now, what's really nice about this figure here, the position of this figure tells you exactly what happened before this picture. He shifted his weight. He just shifted his weight to his rear leg. And those of you who watch baseball, you know what happens when the pitcher pitches the ball, then the batter getting ready to hit it shifts his weight back and torques and turns his body in this direction, right? Getting ready to lay everything into it that he can. So he shifts his weight back to his back hip. In this case, it's his left. He's a left-handed batter. To his left leg. This thigh here is foreshortened. I keep that in mind. So his knee is coming forward, coming straight at us. And what's nice about this picture is the lighting. If I was painting this or drawing this, I could just darken that right here. And the picture shows you that. And that will help enhance that feeling of this batter putting all his weight he's putting all his weight back here. He just shifted. He was up here. So this figure is, he was up here in the same position. His hands was in the same position, but his head was around here. This shoulder would have been here. This arm was here in the same position, maybe lower, because what he's doing is he's corking his body, right? So first he's relaxed, and then he twists, like twisting a rag or a rubber band, a tight rubber band. Then he's going to untwist, and that's where all his power is coming from. This is so much fun. So these are the things that we're thinking about. You know, what is he doing? Oh, in this case, we can see what he's already done. This is a nice photograph, and he's on his right foot. There's only a little weight, hardly any weight on his right foot, because he's getting ready to shift back. All his weight is on his left foot, this foot here. His left foot, maybe he weighs 200 pounds. And all the weight this is the red, all the gravity is coming down here. All the weight, all his weight is here. Matter of fact, I drew this foot a little bit too high. It should be here. All the weight of his 200 pounds. Let's say he weighs 220 pounds. It's right here. And your drawing should say that. See, I'm putting more weight there by varying my line. My drawing said this is where the weight is. His muscles are flexed. And this is how when you think in these terms, artists, we see. We don't just look. We see, we feel, and that's our job, that's our purpose. The way we see is important. So the back, all of his energy, all the energy of his torquing body, his torquing muscles, his skeletal system, it's going to go back this way. It's going to go back forward. But all the energy is going to come up from the ground into this bat. And he's going to swing the bat around wherever the ball is, right? Wherever the ball, I don't know where the ball is, but wherever that ball is, all that stored energy, he's storing all of his energy. And he's going to release the energy through his bat to hit this ball and hit his home run. This is so much fun. You see the value of gesture? Now, comic book artists are great at doing that. Comic book artists are great, and this is how they're thinking. They're thinking about what the figure is doing, what the body is doing. Say, a drawing of the Flash. The comic book artist is going to try to make him look fast. You know, he's going to use all this storytelling to get the point across. That's the value of art, storytelling. That's the value of your art class. It helps you to think and invent and create. Creation is akin to invention. You can invent anything. You can invent a new recipe. You can invent a new design for an automobile. You can invent a new building, you know, architecture. You can invent a new business. Art is powerful, and it makes children powerful. So any parents watching, or grandparents, or People, you just know a child, get them involved with Splash because art is for everyone. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.